This is the reason grocery prices rarely come down quickly, even after inflation slows or individual costs fall. This video explains how grocery prices are set, why increases move faster than decreases, and how the structure of the food system creates delays that show up on every receipt. Every grocery trip creates a running comparison to the past because prices are checked weekly and remembered easily. When prices rise, the change feels immediate, and when inflation cools, many shoppers expect that same speed in reverse. What nobody expects is how uneven the adjustment becomes once prices settle at a higher level. Instead of falling back, prices tend to pause, shift sideways, or decline only in a few visible categories. That pattern comes from how grocery prices are formed. They represent the final step in a long chain of costs that begins well before food reaches a store. Farms, processors, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers each pass prices forward. By the time a price reaches the shelf, it reflects layers of decisions rather than a single change. Economists describe slow-moving prices with a simple phrase, price stickiness. It refers to prices that do not adjust quickly even when costs or demand shift. Interview-based research, summarized by economist Alan S. Blinder, sheds light on how firms behave in practice. Across the firms he studied, the median company changed prices once per year, not continuously. Timing matters just as much. In that same research, price changes typically followed cost or demand shocks by 3 to 4 months, which meant adjustments came well after conditions shifted. This helps explain why prices rise quickly under pressure, but resist falling later. When costs surge, firms respond to protect margins, and when costs ease, prices often wait for the next scheduled review. Changing prices requires coordination, system updates, and operational effort. Because of that friction, increases move fast and decreases move carefully. Grocery prices pass through several stages before reaching consumers. Those stages include farming, processing, manufacturing, wholesaling, distribution, and retail. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, price volatility declines as food moves downstream through these steps. Producer price indexes, which reflect prices closer to production, fluctuate more than retail prices measured by the Consumer Price Index. The USDA Economic Research Service explains the reason clearly. Because food moves through multiple processing and distribution layers, the Consumer Price Index typically lags movements in the Producer Price Index. That lag creates a familiar disconnect. Upstream prices can fall while grocery prices stay elevated. What few people see is how that lag acts like a buffer. It dampens sharp swings, smoothing spikes, but it also slows relief. The slowdown feels frustrating, partly because the earlier rise happened so fast. Recent history makes that contrast hard to ignore. In August 2022, Bureau of Labor Statistics data showed food-at-home prices rising 13.5% year over year, one of the steepest increases in decades. That moment marked how quickly grocery prices could move under stress. Looking at the full year confirms the scale. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, food prices in 2022 rose 9.9% overall, with food at home up 11.4% and food away from home up 7.7%. That agency notes that this pace was the fastest since 1979. When prices move that quickly, the system shifts into protection mode. Contracts reset, wages adjust, and operating assumptions change. Those new price levels become the starting point going forward. Once inflation slowed, many expected prices to retrace their steps. Instead, the data showed moderation rather than reversal. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index for December 2025, released on January 13, 2026, reported food-at-home prices up 2.4% over the prior 12 months. That figure shows slower growth, not falling prices. The United States Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service reported the same pattern. Food-at-home prices increased 0.5% from November to December 2025, and 2.4% from December 2024 to December 2025. This is where expectations and mechanics diverge. Cooling inflation means prices stop accelerating rapidly, not that they fall. Some categories do decline. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that egg prices fell 8.2% month over month in December 2025, even as the broader food-at-home index remained higher over the year. grocery shoppers experience prices as a total bill. Indexes work the same way. When one item falls sharply, increases or stability elsewhere can offset that decline. The result is a basket that feels unchanged even as individual prices move. The United States Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service describes this smoothing effect directly. As prices move downstream, volatility decreases. That decline in volatility works both ways. It limits sudden spikes, and it also limits sudden drops. The problem is perception. Shoppers notice falling items, but they feel the full basket. Another constraint sits inside grocery stores themselves. Retail margins are narrow. Data cited by FMI, the Food Industry Association, shows grocery net profit margins were around 1.6% in 2023. In an FMI press release, CEO Leslie G. Saracen described food retail margins settling at 1.7%, compared with 7.7% net income reported by food product suppliers. That difference matters. With margins this thin, grocery retailers have limited room to absorb cost swings. When costs rise, prices adjust to prevent losses. When costs ease, retailers often focus on stability rather than immediate reductions. The result is caution. Small margins reward consistency over rapid repricing. Price increases often arrive during disruption. Supply chain strain, labor costs, and sudden shortages force fast decisions. Once prices reset, everything else aligns around that new level. Contracts reflect it, wages reflect it, and operating costs follow. When pressures ease, reversing those changes takes time. Wages rarely fall, contracts may be locked, and fixed costs remain. This creates an imbalance. Prices climb quickly during shocks and descend slowly during recovery. Blinder's finding that firms typically change prices annually fits this pattern. Downward adjustments wait their turn. Price declines do happen, but they tend to arrive slowly. The United States Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service provides a clear example. In 2016 and 2017, food at home prices deflated, meaning they declined at grocery stores. During that same period, food away from home prices continued rising. That contrast shows what broad declines require. They depend on sustained conditions, not temporary relief. Short-term improvements slow inflation. They do not guarantee lower prices. The Economic Research Service forecasts help set expectations. In its January 2026 food price outlook, the Economic Research Service projected food at home prices rising 1.7%. The prediction interval tells a deeper story. The Economic Research Service estimated a range from -2.3% to +6.0%, signaling uncertainty across categories. Food away from home follows a different path. The Economic Research Service projected food away from home prices rising 4.6% in 2026, continuing a faster trend. These forecasts point toward moderation rather than rollback. Relief appears uneven and gradual. Many people expect prices to behave symmetrically. Fast increases create expectations of fast decreases. The food system does not operate that way. It favors continuity and planning. The Economic Research Service emphasizes that the Consumer Price Index lags upstream prices. That lag creates a gap between headlines about falling costs and what shows up at checkout. The frustration comes from timing, not deception. The system is doing what it has always done. When grocery prices stop rising quickly, the signal is stabilization. The system has absorbed shocks and reset. Category-level declines, like the drop in egg prices in December 2025, show that adjustments occur. They just do not arrive evenly. Overall prices reflect a balance. Costs must stay low long enough to outweigh those that remain high. That balance takes time to shift. The structure of grocery pricing has changed little over decades. Multiple stages, contracts, and thin margins remain constant features. Historical data from the Economic Research Service shows long periods of gradual movement punctuated by sharp spikes. Rapid reversals are rare. As long as food moves through complex systems, prices will reflect that complexity. Speed is sacrificed for stability. This video explained why grocery prices rarely come down quickly. Price stickiness, layered supply chains, thin retail margins, and delayed adjustments all shape what shoppers see. When inflation slows, prices tend to stabilize rather than fall. Understanding that difference explains why relief feels slow. The system is not designed to move fast. It is designed to move steadily, and that steadiness is what keeps grocery shelves stocked.